Oliver Ollie Cross stood frozen in the plush aisle of first class, a tiny figure clutching a worn teddy bear. His bright shirt and khaki pants screamed innocence, yet the sting on his cheek burned hotter than the cabin lights. The flight attendant's palm still hovered mid-air, her eyes cold, her voice slicing through the stunned silence. "You don't belong here." Passengers stared, some shocked, others averting their gaze. 3 rows back, a man in a tailored suit slowly raised his phone, recording every second. He wasn't just any passenger. He was Ollie's father, and the true storm was about to break. The sound of the slap cracked through the air like a gunshot. For a heartbeat, the entire first-class cabin froze. Oliver Ollie Cross, just 10 years old, stood trembling beside seat 2A, his small hands clutching his beloved teddy bear so tightly the fabric bunched under his fingers. His bright shirt, neatly tucked into khaki pants, now looked oddly out of place in the suffocating tension. His wide blue eyes glistened, one hand rising instinctively to cover the cheek that still burned. Karen Holt, the senior flight attendant on this route, loomed over him. Her lips were curled in a tight, disdainful sneer as she barked, "You don't belong here." The words dropped heavy and cold, laced with an authority she clearly enjoyed wielding. Her uniform was immaculate, every fold pressed to perfection, but her posture radiated superiority, one that demanded submission. Around them, passengers shifted uncomfortably. A man in 1C lowered his newspaper slowly. A woman in 3D looked up from her laptop, eyes narrowing in quiet disapproval. A few averted their gaze entirely, sinking into their seats as if pretending they hadn't seen anything could absolve them of involvement. 3 rows back, Nathaniel Cross sat motionless in seat 5C, his tailored charcoal suit a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding ahead. His gaze locked on his son. The sharp flare of anger that rose inside him was masked by an expression of almost unnerving calm. Without a word, he slid his phone from his jacket pocket, tapped the record button, and angled the lens to capture the scene. Ollie didn't speak. His small frame seemed to fold inward, not from guilt, but from the sheer shock of being struck by a stranger. Mr. Bear dangled limply from his arm, the stitched smile on the toy's face now a cruel counterpoint to the boy's quivering lip. "Return to your proper section," Karen added, her tone like ice. "First class isn't a playground." A whisper rose from the second row. 2 men, one in a navy blazer, the other in a cream linen suit, exchanged a glance, recognition flickering between them as they looked toward Nathaniel. They knew that face. One leaned slightly forward, murmuring something under his breath, and the other's brows lifted in surprise. Nathaniel caught the glance but didn't acknowledge it. Instead, he zoomed in slightly, ensuring Karen's expression, Ollie's tear-bright eyes, and the surrounding passengers were all in frame. Evidence, he thought. Cold, irrefutable evidence. Karen, unaware of the phone fixed on her, straightened her shoulders and turned back toward the galley, leaving Ollie standing there. The boy's eyes flickered briefly toward his father's seat. Nathaniel gave the smallest nod, a silent promise. For now, he would do nothing, but the reckoning had already begun. From his seat in 5C, Nathaniel Cross's eyes never left his son. To the casual observer, he appeared to be another well-dressed business traveler, calmly reviewing emails. But beneath that composed exterior, every detail was calculated. It hadn't been an accident that Ollie was seated 3 rows ahead, alone in first class. Nathaniel had arranged it deliberately when booking the tickets. As the new owner of Aurora Air, he had spent weeks incognito, traveling on various routes to observe service standards without the distortion of official visits. Today, he wanted to see something specific, how his airline treated a child traveling alone without the visible shield of a powerful parent. The decision was personal. At 17, Nathaniel had boarded a flight to New York wearing his best thrift store blazer, eager to attend a scholarship interview. The memory still burned. How a gate agent had questioned his ticket 3 times, how a flight attendant had spoken to him like he was trespassing. No one had defended him. That experience had taught him 2 things. Prejudice often wore a professional smile, and the damage it inflicted could last years. Ollie had protested, of course. "Why can't we sit together, Dad?" Nathaniel had crouched to meet his eyes in the premium lounge earlier that morning, resting a steadying hand on his son's shoulder. "Because you're ready to try something new. I'll be right behind you the whole way." It was in that same lounge that Nathaniel first noticed Karen Holt. She moved through the space with an air of ownership, her eyes scanning passengers as if sorting them into invisible categories. When her gaze landed on Ollie, bright shirt, khaki pants, clutching his teddy bear, her expression barely shifted, but Nathaniel caught it. A flicker of judgment, lips pressing into a faint line. Karen's attention lingered a beat too long before she turned away, the corners of her mouth tightening as she greeted an older couple in designer travel wear with far more warmth. Nathaniel filed the moment away silently. Now, replaying that glance in his mind as he recorded the scene in the cabin, Nathaniel knew it hadn't been random. Karen had already decided who Ollie was before she even saw his boarding pass. She had made her judgment back in the lounge. In business, Nathaniel had built his reputation on strategy, not outbursts. The more personal the affront, the colder his response. He leaned back, phone still recording, mind already mapping the steps ahead. Evidence first, confrontation later. Ollie glanced back once more, his eyes meeting Nathaniel's. The boy's shoulders were squared now, as if drawing invisible strength from that connection. Nathaniel gave a subtle nod, a silent assurance. "You're not alone." And just like that, the game had truly begun. The cabin service began, and Karen's bias unfolded like a well-rehearsed routine. At row 1, she knelt slightly, smiling warmly as she offered a detailed menu of beverages, describing each option with a gracious tone. Crystal glasses, linen napkins, and small bowls of warmed nuts appeared on passengers' trays. By the time she reached Ollie in 2A, the warmth had cooled to formality, then to something colder. "Juice or water?" she asked curtly, skipping the wine glass presentation altogether. Without waiting for a full answer, she set a plastic cup of apple juice directly on his tray table. No napkin, no smile, and moved on. Nathaniel's thumb tapped his phone screen, marking a timestamp. Every contrast mattered. He caught the way Ollie's eyes flicked toward the service given to the suited man in 2B, whose drink was placed on a folded napkin with a gentle, "Here you are, sir." The difference was undeniable. In the aisle behind Karen, Sophia Reyes worked quietly, attending to passengers in her section. Younger than most of the crew, she had a watchfulness about her. From the moment she'd seen the slap, Sophia's jaw had tightened, but she kept moving, delivering drinks and adjusting blankets. As Karen passed her, Sophia bent toward Ollie with a quick smile. "Would you like anything else?" she asked softly, her voice carrying just enough warmth to pierce the tension. But before Ollie could answer, another flight attendant shot Sophia a sharp look, a silent warning. Sophia straightened and moved on, professionalism masking the flicker of frustration in her eyes. Nathaniel saw it all. The phone in his hand felt heavier with each recorded clip. He wasn't just collecting evidence against one employee, he was documenting a culture, the invisible lines that divided passengers into valued and tolerated. Then, something unexpected, a faint click from across the aisle. Nathaniel's gaze shifted just in time to catch a man in a dark blue baseball cap lowering his own phone. He wasn't aiming it at Nathaniel, he was aiming at Ollie and Karen. The angle suggested he had captured the slap from earlier, a perspective Nathaniel didn't have. The man's face remained impassive, his attention quickly dropping back to a paperback novel in his lap. But Nathaniel's instincts stirred. Whoever he wasn't just a casual traveler. Karen returned to the galley, her expression set, oblivious to the quiet web of observations forming around her. Sophia avoided her eyes, focusing on refilling coffee in the rear of the cabin. Nathaniel leaned back, the hum of the engines filling the silence in his mind. He now had his footage, Sophia's unspoken support, and, possibly, a second recording from a stranger. The pieces were shifting, the board expanding, And Karen had no idea that her control of the narrative was already slipping away. In the galley, Sophia slid the passenger manifest from its folder, scanning quickly as she refilled the beverage cart. Her finger stopped midway down the page. 2A. Oliver Cross. The surname hit her like a quiet alarm. She knew it, not from a personal meeting, but from company whispers since the acquisition. Aurora Air had a new owner, a logistics magnate named Nathaniel Cross. She'd never seen him in person, but Cross wasn't a name you forgot when it came attached to rumors of sweeping changes and high expectations. Her gaze drifted toward 5C. The man there, tall, composed, dressed with understated precision, was watching 2A with an intensity that didn't match casual travel. The pieces began to align in her mind. Nathaniel, meanwhile, angled his phone toward his lap and opened a secure messaging app. To Daniel Harper, Executive Assistant. His fingers moved quickly. Need full crew list for flight AA327 ATL JFK. Also, pull service history and any past passenger complaints involving lead FA Karen Holt. Quietly, no alerts to in-flight staff. He hit send without hesitation, sliding the phone face down on his tray table. The request was routine for his world. Swift, precise, and surgical. Evidence first, confrontation later. 2 rows behind Sophia, another set of eyes had been watching Nathaniel type. The man in the dark blue cap, the same one who had taken his own photo earlier, shifted slightly, angling his phone under the guise of reading. A notification flashed across his screen, then vanished. Moments later, at Aurora Air's operations hub, the message Nathaniel had sent was intercepted, not by accident, but by design. A systems analyst named Clark, loyal to Martin Drake, flagged the request and forwarded a screenshot to the vice president's private number. Martin Drake was in his office when the alert came through. Lean, with a calculating expression and a reputation for protecting old guard practices, he read the text twice before leaning back in his chair. So, Cross is on board, he murmured to himself, and targeting Karen. His mind moved quickly. If Cross was gathering ammunition, Martin needed to get ahead of it. He tapped out a reply to Clark. Keep me updated. If he requests anything else, I want it immediately. And tell Karen, subtly, not to admit to anything on record. Back on the plane, Sophia replaced the manifest, her thoughts spinning. She wasn't sure whether to approach Ollie directly or keep her suspicions to herself. A glance toward Nathaniel found him calmly sipping water, the picture of patience. But beneath that stillness, an invisible current was building, a signal that power was already in motion. And somewhere on the ground, a countermove had just been set in play. Nathaniel waited until the aisle was clear before retrieving his phone again. With a few discreet taps, he opened a secure line to Aurora Air's Regional Operations Director, based in New York. His message was brief but absolute. Meet me at Gate 17 upon arrival. Bring security lead and HR manager. Do not inform flight crew. He sent it, then set the device face down once more, returning to his outward posture of quiet detachment. To anyone watching, he was simply another businessman catching up on correspondence mid-flight. Meanwhile, Sophia made her way forward under the pretense of checking overhead bins. As she passed 2A, she paused just long enough to lean toward Ollie. "Are you doing okay, sweetheart?" she asked softly, careful that her voice didn't carry. Ollie nodded, though the way he tightened his hold on Mr. Bear told a different story. Sophia slid a folded linen napkin onto his tray, something Karen had denied him earlier, and whispered, "Here, just in case you need it." It was a small act, but the flicker of relief in Ollie's eyes told her it mattered. In the rear galley, Karen's phone buzzed with a discreet vibration. She glanced down at the screen, shielding it from view. The message was from an internal number she recognized instantly, Martin Drake. "Keep calm. Don't admit anything, no matter what's said. I'll handle the fallout. If there's a complaint, I'll make sure it goes nowhere. And don't worry, I'll find out who's stirring this up." Karen's shoulders loosened slightly as she read. Martin had been her protector for years, the one who smoothed over passenger grievances and kept senior crew insulated from repercussions. If he was aware of the situation, she felt she could ride out the turbulence, both literal and political. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and resumed her duties with renewed composure, greeting a passenger in row 6 as if nothing had happened. Nathaniel, still in 5C, observed the subtle shift in her demeanor. It didn't take much imagination to know she'd just received reassurance from someone higher up. His mind filed it away as another thread to tug on later. At the same time, Sophia caught the faintest exchange of glances between Karen and another attendant. Quick, coded, and defensive. The atmosphere among the crew had shifted. Something was being coordinated behind the curtain. For Nathaniel, it only confirmed what he already suspected. This wasn't just about one employee's poor judgment. There was a network in place, one that believed it could protect its own from accountability. He let the hum of the engines mask the quiet rhythm of his thoughts. The moves were being made on both sides now, and when the plane touched down, the real game would begin. At Aurora Air's New York Operations Center, the regional director's phone lit up with Nathaniel's encrypted message. Within seconds, she was on the line with the airport's security lead and HR manager. "Gate 17, 30 minutes before arrival. Keep it quiet," she ordered, her tone leaving no room for questions. The instructions rippled outward. Ground staff began clearing schedules and making space in a secure meeting room near the arrival gate. No one mentioned the reason aloud, but the urgency was unmistakable. Back on board, the atmosphere among the crew had shifted. Whispers passed between attendants as they moved through the cabin. One attendant, who had earlier ignored Ali entirely, now offered him a bottle of water and a packaged snack with an almost apologetic smile. Another adjusted the curtain between first class and business a little more carefully, as if extra politeness might somehow undo what had already been done. Karen noticed, of course. Her eyes narrowed each time she caught one of them glancing at 2A. She told herself it was just crew politics, people overreacting to a minor incident. Martin would handle it. He always did. 3 rows back, Nathaniel continued to record in short, unobtrusive clips, noting every small change in behavior. The phone never left his hand for long. Across the aisle, the man in the dark blue cap, the same one who had captured his own angle of the slap, leaned slightly toward the window, thumb tapping rapidly on his screen. Moments later, his device vibrated with the satisfying buzz of a post going live. The image was sharp, Ali frozen mid-flinch, Karen's hand still raised, her mouth twisted in the middle of the words, "You don't belong here." No caption, no context, just the raw moment. Within minutes, the post began to circulate. A traveler in row 8 received it in a group chat and showed it to the person beside them. A murmur ran down the aisle like a slow-burning fuse. 2,000 feet below, in the city's social media feeds, the picture was already sparking outrage. Comments piled in. "Unacceptable. Fire her. This is why airlines need accountability." Others demanded to know the boy's name, who his parents were, and whether he was okay. Nathaniel hadn't seen the post yet, but he noticed the subtle change in the air. Passengers stealing glances at their phones, then at Ali, then at Karen. The dynamic in the cabin was shifting, control slipping further from the crew's grasp. Karen, unaware of the viral fire igniting outside, continued her rounds with forced calm. But the storm was no longer confined to the aircraft. It was already spreading, gathering speed, and there would be no containing it once they landed. The landing was smooth, but the cabin's tension had reached a sharp edge. As passengers gathered their belongings, Nathaniel remained seated, waiting. Ali glanced back at him, and Nathaniel gave a small nod, a silent reminder to follow his lead. When the seatbelt sign blinked off, the first-class passengers began filing toward the front. Nathaniel let several go ahead, his gaze fixed on the jet bridge visible through the open door. Standing there, in a crisp navy suit, was Aurora Air's Regional Operations Director, flanked by the airport's head of security and the airline's HR manager. Their presence was unusual enough to make a few passengers slow their steps. As Nathaniel stepped into the aisle, the director's face lit with a practiced smile. "Mr. Cross, welcome to New York," she said warmly, her voice carrying just enough for nearby passengers and crew to hear. Heads turned instantly. The name landed like a spark in dry tinder. Cross. The same Cross whose takeover had dominated industry news. Whispers rippled down the cabin. Karen, still near the galley, froze mid-step. Her eyes darted from Nathaniel to Ollie, then back again. The recognition hit. This wasn't just an influential passenger. This was the owner of the airline. For a moment, her face blanched, but she recovered quickly, pulling her shoulders back. "Sir," she began, voice steady. "I hope you had a pleasant flight." Nathaniel met her gaze without blinking. "We'll be discussing that shortly." The calmness in his tone carried more weight than any raised voice could. Passengers paused to watch, sensing the gravity of the moment. Cameras from curious onlookers began to rise discreetly. Karen's pulse quickened, but her mind latched onto one thought. Martin will fix this. He'd promised before. He'd smoothed over worse incidents. Even if the boy was the owner's son, there were procedures, union protections, ways to reframe what had happened. As the regional director stepped aside to let Nathaniel pass, Karen forced a polite smile, even managing a small nod to Ollie. She wasn't going to crumble here, not in front of a crowd. Nathaniel walked ahead with Ollie at his side, the HR manager falling into step behind them. The rest of the passengers disembarked in a low buzz of speculation. Karen remained by the galley, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. She could feel eyes on her, could hear the faint murmur of passengers discussing the slap and the Cross family. But she clung to the belief that her shield within the company was still intact. She didn't yet understand that Martin Drake's influence wouldn't be enough this time. The meeting room near Gate 17 was small, its frosted glass walls doing little to hide the tension inside. Nathaniel sat at the head of the table, Ollie beside him, still holding Mr. Bear. Across from them, Karen kept her posture rigid, uniform immaculate, eyes fixed on the tabletop as if bracing for turbulence. The regional director opened a laptop, connecting it to a wall-mounted screen. "Let's begin," she said, voice clipped. The video Nathaniel had recorded played in silence at first. The slap, Ollie's stunned expression, the audible, "You don't belong here." A few in the room shifted uncomfortably. Karen broke the silence. "That moment has been taken out of context," she said firmly. "There was turbulence. The boy was moving in the aisle. I acted to prevent a fall. My priority was safety." Nathaniel's gaze was steady. "Safety," he repeated slowly, "doesn't usually involve a raised hand and a verbal dismissal from first class." Before Karen could reply, Sophia stepped forward from where she'd been standing near the wall. "With respect," she said, her voice clear. "There was no turbulence at that time. I was in the aisle. The seatbelt sign was off. The action was deliberate, and the tone was unprofessional." Karen shot her a sharp look, but Sophia didn't flinch. The regional director made a note on her tablet. Then, a knock at the door. The HR manager opened it to admit the man in the dark blue cap, the passenger from across the aisle. Without a word, he placed a USB drive on the table. "My angle," he said simply. The second video left no room for debate. From his seat, the strike was even more visible, and so was Karen's expression. Cold, dismissive, calculated. Nathaniel leaned back, but the passenger wasn't finished. "Also," he added, sliding a small folder across the table, "this came from a friend in IT." The director opened it, her brows lifting. Inside was a compiled list of passenger complaints naming Karen over the past 5 years. Incidents marked resolved, but with no action taken. The digital timestamps showed each had been closed within hours, often by Martin Drake's office. The room's atmosphere shifted sharply. Karen's confident facade faltered. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the table. Nathaniel glanced at the director, then at the HR manager. "Patterns," he said quietly, "are rarely accidents." Sophia stood a little taller, her earlier hesitation gone. The evidence now spoke louder than any testimony could. Karen swallowed hard, still clinging to the thought that Martin might somehow intervene. But in this room, at this moment, his reach felt suddenly far away. The regional director closed the complaint file with a quiet snap. But Nathaniel wasn't finished. He reached into his leather briefcase and withdrew a thin, black folder. Sliding it to the center of the table, he spoke with measured precision. "This," he said, "is an internal audit I commissioned during the acquisition. It examines complaint patterns across all domestic routes over the last 5 years. The HR manager opened it, her eyes scanning the highlighted columns. The numbers were stark. More than 30 separate passenger complaints involving conduct similar to Karen's, each one marked closed with no action. Nearly all bore the same digital signature, approval from Martin Drake's office. Nathaniel's tone remained calm, but the weight behind his words was undeniable. When a culture protects misconduct, it stops being an accident. It becomes policy. Karen's jaw tightened, but it was clear the conversation had shifted from her individual actions to something much larger. The regional director's expression had hardened into something that wasn't going to be soothed by procedural excuses. From the back of the room, a voice spoke up, hesitant at first, but growing steadier. It belonged to Harold Bennett, a senior flight attendant with nearly 3 decades at the airline. He'd been called in as a witness, but had remained silent until now. "I shouldn't be saying this," Harold began, "but there's a manual, an unofficial one." All eyes turned to him. "It's circulated among certain senior crew, not officially of course, but everyone knows about it. It outlines how to maintain brand exclusivity in premium cabins. It doesn't say discriminate, but it teaches you how to spot passengers who don't fit the profile and how to make them uncomfortable enough to leave on their own." The room went still. Harold's voice wavered only slightly as he continued. "It's been around for years. New hires aren't supposed to see it, but some senior staff treat it like a rite of passage. Martin knows about it. Hell, I think he's the one who pushed for it to be standardized." Nathaniel's eyes narrowed, the faintest flicker of genuine anger breaking through his controlled exterior. "Do you have a copy?" Harold nodded. "At home. I can get it tonight." The regional director leaned back, exhaling slowly. What had started as an isolated misconduct review was now a direct path to a systemic scandal. Karen shifted uncomfortably in her chair, realizing the ground beneath her was eroding faster than she'd thought. And for the first time, she wasn't entirely sure Martin Drake could pull her out of it. By the next morning, the story had broken wide open. News channels replayed the slap on a loop, cutting between the shaky phone footage from the cabin and the still image that had gone viral hours earlier. Headlines split into 2 camps: airline owner's son assaulted mid-flight, and Aurora Air in crisis, first-class scandal exposed. Social media boiled over. One side demanded immediate terminations and industry-wide reforms, tagging the airline in every furious post. The other, smaller but loud, claimed the video lacked context, suggesting it was a setup to embarrass a long-serving employee. In a glass-walled office miles away, Martin Drake was orchestrating his own counterattack. "Leak the memo," he told a trusted contact. Within hours, an anonymous insider report began circulating online, claiming Nathaniel Cross had been planning a purge of senior staff since the acquisition, and that the incident with Ollie was a convenient excuse to remove Karen and others loyal to the old regime. The tactic worked to a point. Some commentators began questioning the timing. Industry blogs speculated about corporate power plays. Karen's supporters, though few, became more vocal. But what Martin didn't know was that the source of the initial viral image wasn't an activist passenger. It was personal. In a dim apartment across town, a man in a dark blue baseball cap sat at his cluttered kitchen table, watching the chaos unfold on his laptop. His name was Ryan Keller, a former IT contractor for Aurora Air. 2 years ago, Martin had him fired under the guise of budget cuts, after Ryan refused to erase certain complaint records from the system. Ryan had kept a low profile since, but when he spotted Nathaniel and Ollie in the boarding lounge and recognized Karen, an old spark reignited. He'd taken the photo of the slap not just for the public's sake, but to finally expose the culture Martin had protected. As the debates raged, Ryan scrolled through the comments with grim satisfaction. His one post had forced the company's inner rot into the light, and this time, Martin's spin wouldn't bury it so easily. Back at Aurora Air headquarters, Nathaniel monitored the coverage without comment. Public perception was now a battleground, but he had no intention of letting Martin dictate the terms. The next moves wouldn't be fought in the press. They'd be executed within the boardroom and the law. For Karen, the noise outside was a faint echo compared to the silence in her phone. Martin hadn't called all day. The press conference was held in a sleek auditorium at Aurora Air's headquarters, every seat filled with reporters, industry analysts, and employees. Cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking in anticipation. Nathaniel stood at the podium, the company's blue and silver emblem projected behind him. "Today," he began, voice even but resonant, "we turn a page, not just for Aurora Air, but for the industry as a whole." He laid out the framework for what he called the Aurora Standard: mandatory bias awareness and customer care training for all crew, a fully transparent passenger complaint system, quarterly service audits, and an independent review board with the power to overrule management decisions. Slides clicked across the screen, graphs of complaint resolution times, testimonials from passengers, and a bold headline: "No passenger left unheard." "We are also inviting partner airlines to adopt the Aurora Standard," Nathaniel continued, "because fairness should not be a competitive advantage. It should be the baseline." The room erupted in applause from employees who'd long wanted change. Reporters scribbled furiously, but then came the part no one expected. Nathaniel's gaze shifted toward a side door. It opened, and Karen Holt walked in, still in uniform, expression guarded but not defiant. Murmurs swept the room. "Some of you may assume Ms. Holt no longer works here," Nathaniel said, letting the tension breathe. "That would be the easy route, for her and for us. But genuine change doesn't come from removing the problem and pretending it never existed. It comes from confronting it and transforming it." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "Ms. Holt will not be terminated today. Instead, she will complete the full Aurora Standard program, twice. Upon completion, she will speak to every incoming class of crew members about what happens when bias overshadows professionalism. Her story will not be buried. It will be a warning and a proof point that people can change, if they choose to." Karen's eyes flickered, a mix of relief and discomfort. This wasn't the shield Martin would have provided. This was exposure on a scale she hadn't anticipated. Nathaniel closed his remarks with a simple truth. An airline doesn't earn loyalty through seats or champagne. It earns it through respect. As the press conference ended, headlines were already forming. Aurora Air owner turns scandal in to blueprint for reform. And for the first time, the conversation wasn't about the slap. It was about what would follow. 1 year later, the Aurora Air emblem gleamed on banners lining the Grand Hall of the International Aviation Summit. Industry leaders, regulators, and journalists filled the space, eager to hear from the company that had turned a public scandal into a benchmark for reform. Nathaniel stood at the edge of the stage, watching his son adjust the microphone. Ollie, now 11, was taller, more confident, but still carried Mr. Bear in his backpack, a quiet reminder of where this journey began. "Last year," Ollie began, voice steady, "I learned that even in the safest places, people can make you feel small. But I also learned that when someone sees that and chooses to act, everything can change." His words carried across the hall, drawing nods from executives who had since adopted the Aurora Standard in their own fleets. He spoke not of anger, but of lessons. How respect could be taught, how apologies meant more when backed by action, and how a single moment could ripple outward to touch thousands. The audience responded with warm applause, some even standing. After the panel ended, Nathaniel and Ollie boarded an Aurora Air flight home. It was a routine route now, but the company had changed beyond recognition. Every interaction, from the check-in counter to the boarding gate, reflected the cultural shift that had taken root. As they stepped into first class, a small figure caught Ollie's attention. A girl no older than 8, traveling alone, a bright pink backpack hanging from her shoulders. She clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest, eyes wide with the mix of excitement and nervousness that came with flying without family. "Welcome aboard," said the lead flight attendant, kneeling to meet the girl's gaze. The woman's voice was warm, her smile genuine. "Let's get you comfortable, okay?" Ollie recognized her instantly. Sophia Reyes, now wearing the stripes of a lead crew member. She glanced up, spotting him in the first row. A knowing smile passed between them, layered with unspoken history. Sophia guided the girl to her seat, placing a small tray of snacks in front of her and chatting until the child relaxed. The scene was simple, almost ordinary, yet it was the clearest proof of change. Where once there had been cold dismissal, there was now open welcome. As the plane taxied for takeoff, Ollie leaned toward Nathaniel. "She's going to be okay," he said quietly. Nathaniel nodded, watching Sophia adjust the cabin lights. "Yes," he replied. "She will, and so will this airline." Outside, the runway stretched into the horizon, a path cleared for those willing to walk it differently.